All right, so when I was 17, I had just got first responder, and we had a call that come out of a motor vehicle crash with entrapment. And it was three boys that was in the back, a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 7-year-old. I told you I'm 17. 17-year-old was signal 7. And for people that don't know what that means deceased. And he was deceased in the driver's side back of the vehicle and had the top of the roof was crushed in on his face. The 7-year-old was crying because the whole time we were trying to cut them out, and we were trying to do this obviously quickly, he's sitting there crying and screaming because his 17-year-old brother is dead and not talking to him right next to him. And when we get the 7-year-old out, he's crying and he grabs a hold of my bunker jacket by the neck and he says, "Please don't let me die like my brother."
You're listening to Responder Chronicles with your host Brian Dita, and today we finally got back. Ta-da! My son Mason Dita, who is also the host of this podcast,
Hi, how's everybody doing today?
and we are excited today. We have a unique person here because not only is this a deputy sheriff, he's also a volunteer firefighter, and he also has experience in the dispatch center. And he's going to talk about that quite a bit today. Of course, we're going to have some stories and unique questions, I'm sure, that Mason is going to come up with. Today, I will tell you, he's in the state of Florida. His name is Shai. He's a deputy sheriff. As in what county he's in or anything like that, well, we'll just keep that secret. And so right now we have Shai. Shai?
Thank you for having me. Great pleasure to be here. Just want to see what kind of questions we got and what might help other people listening see what they think this type of work might be like and what they didn't think it might be like.
How many years do you have on so far in law enforcement?
Law enforcement, I just hit 5 years.
All right.
Um, this past July. Then fire, I have 12 years in with fire, and then 3 years at dispatch.
How did you start? How did it go? You were started off in dispatch, went to fire to dispatch. How did it all go?
So when I was 16, I started in the volunteer fire service, which means I was still in school. So I was a junior firefighter, and you have to wait until a certain age to get certified. So I basically got to do a lot of junior stuff around the firehouse, learning before I went to school, and then 18 years old, jump in both feet in the fire and took off.
Now, when you were a junior firefighter, were you able to like go on some of the calls?
So we had a policy to where you could go on all the calls, you can come to all the trainings, but because you weren't certified, you couldn't go into like a hot zone, you couldn't touch patients and stuff like that. But I still got to go and witness everything. So it's kind of learning before you actually were able to do anything because you got to watch people do stuff. And for me, that's how I learn better is watching and seeing firsthand versus reading a book or a PowerPoint.
Okay, so so you get that experience without putting the hands on. You kind of know what to expect when the time comes. You can go hands on.
Yes.
And so you were in high school,
Yes, sir.
all right?
16 years old.
16 years old. Reminds me of somebody. Reminds me about somebody that I know. And I mean, come on, speak up.
I was 15.
15. You were 15 when you got started. So we have Shay that started at 16. Mason started at 15. I mean, I think that's a pretty good time. If you got your head on your shoulders just right, I mean, you can go ahead and get get your toes into a career. So from fire, out of high school, what did a young Shay want to do as soon as he graduated?
So, and I would say I turned 18. I was still in school. I actually, in the middle of the season, it was my senior year, and I stopped. I was playing basketball at the time, and I talked with my coach, and I said, "Hey, coach, I don't see, I don't see me going to college to play basketball. I see me going to fight fire. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing right now." And he, to this day, respects me for standing up and making that decision. And so in the middle of my senior year, I stepped away from basketball and focused 100% on fire department. I went through Fire One, went through First Responder, went through Wildland, got all of it done, and that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So after I graduated, that's when I got hired at Ascend under a contractor that dealt with basically doing the services of the escape packs, which are mini air packs. We did all the fire extinguisher inspections and stuff like that. So that was still going down that fire route, but it was more the inspecting type.
All right.
So that's kind of where I went from school and was still in that fire before an unexpected change happened.
Okay. Well, do you want to speak about that unexpected change or?
Yeah, so the contractor that I was working with at the plant, he was not sure that he would have the contract in the next year. So me, fresh out of high school, I done got some bills established. I'm like, well, I got to do something.
Yeah.
Well, um, there was some people in a neighboring department that worked for the 911 center, and I found out there was an opening there. So I'm like, well, I've been in fire for a while. I've been doing EMS calls because around us in this day and age, fire is like 95% EMS calls.
Hmm.
So I'm like, well, we'll do that. So I put in, that's when I got hired at the 911 center and started my dispatch career.
Well, just real quick, going backing up just a little bit, what got you motivated to go into fire?
So long time ago when I was a little kid, my great grandpa, he was one of the founding members fire department in 1974. And I wanted to be just like him because I would be a little kid at his house, and when his pager went off, I was at the front door with his radio in my hand wanting to go. And it just depended on because I was a little kid. So back in them days, you didn't have all the rules and regulations you do now.
Hmm.
And I was allowed to go on some calls and sit in the vehicle while he went out and done stuff. But obviously, if it was a pretty serious call, then I wouldn't be able to go. So that's what started the itch was when I was little and we'd be sitting there having family dinner and that loud radio would go off and I would hear gibberish and not understand what none of it was, but just know that it was a fire call. And that's what led me to want to do that.
Mason, I want to know because I don't think I've ever really asked you what started your itch to get into fire.
It was probably we had a church function for like a back to school bash, and one of the members of our fire department currently was there with one of the fire trucks, and he was showing me around and everything. I saw the helicopter. I had originally wanted to be a life flight pilot, but then as I started to see more about the fire department, I just got more interested about it.
Okay, and that's how I got involved. You weren't able to drive yet, but you were already volunteering up here, and I thought, well, if I'm gonna haul you around to these calls, possibly I might as well join. And
Yeah.
here I am. So, okay, well that's neat. I just kind of wanted to know. Uh, so we're at dispatch, or you got a job now at dispatch, Shay. Tell me how that was.
It was a game changer. Nobody really hears about the 911 dispatcher. Nobody hears about the call takers. And it was a whole new world for me because I'm sitting here, I've been a firefighter for a while, and everybody knows about the police officers, the cops that ride around, all that stuff, but nobody thinks about who's telling them what they need to know. You know, when you call 911, you're not talking to a police officer, you're not talking to a firefighter saying, "Hey, my house is on fire." You're talking to this other party that is not there, that does not know what you see, and they're having to pass that information on to different agencies to get everybody to do the one main common goal, and that's to help when you call 911. So I started my training, and it was a lot of it when it comes to the dispatching portion. That was kind of easy because I've been talking on a radio. I know the lingo when you're talking on the radios and stuff like that. We didn't have 10 codes because you're supposed to be using plain talk, so it wasn't hard with that. What really got hard was when you start call taking, and I had no idea it was going to be as challenging as it was. and basically they're calling to talk to you for answers on their worst day. The worst time of their life when they have to call 911, they're calling and you answer the phone and you're the one that has to tell them what to do, how to do it, if they don't know what to do, and all that kind of stuff. So it was definitely a game changer for me and the way I look at dispatchers and respect them, that other people has no idea some of the stuff that they mentally go through and what it takes to be a call taker and dispatcher.
And it's got to take a special skill set for sure. And there's, they're calling you, like you said, on their worst day possible, but they're also calling you frantic. A lot of times, what they hear doesn't turn into an action, and you got to get through that. You got to get through to get the information that you need. Now, the call center that you worked at, some counties or call centers, it's all like the county. It all goes to one county. Law enforcement, fire, EMS, it all goes to one. Or was the call center that you were at just specifically dealt with either law or how did it go in that call center?
So in the call center that I worked at, every call in the county comes to the EOC. So once it gets there, that's where you determine, does this call stay here or does it go somewhere else? So if you have two jurisdictions inside this county, and so if it was a law enforcement matter, it would have to go to that specific jurisdiction for them to handle it. So we would, because we only dispatched fire and EMS. So if it was county sheriff's office, it would go to the county sheriff's office. If it was inside of a police jurisdiction, it would go to their jurisdictional law enforcement agencies. We did EMS for the entire county, but when it comes to the two city jurisdictions, we dispatched for one of the cities, but we didn't dispatch for the other. So it would be us basically doing the EMS and fire side in our 911 call center, and then law enforcement we would ship out to whoever jurisdiction it goes to.
Okay, so I'm sure that can get a little confusing sometimes, especially where the borders are. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
100%.
Now, since you primarily focus with EMS and fire, I know that sometimes, depending on which department, they can spend a lot of time on that radio, and you're like, get off, because I imagine it gets frantic whenever you happen to deal with fire.
It does. I mean, a lot of us, and I'm not perfect. I have my moments. Everybody has their moments. You get amped up because it's a certain call that you're going to, and you got people that's trained that needs to know certain stuff, and so they're going to be asking more questions. And you have people that's not trained, so they're going to be asking questions or saying things that are not really needed to be said. And at the same time, you have dispatchers that need to get information out, or you got other fire members that are getting en route and stuff like that. And they need to hear the same information that either you're blocking up the traffic for or that you already know, but they need to know. So it definitely gets overwhelming sometimes. But you have to, at the end of the day, something you have to deal with. And have patience. That's the biggest thing. Have patience. Let people say what they need to, and then you step in and put out the information that needs to be given.
Do you remember your first intense dispatch call?
First intense dispatch call.
I didn't give you that to begin with, but I'm just thinking dispatch it's a whole different game.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of them work side to side. I'm not saying every call is the same, but your medical calls are a lot of your medical calls are generally from a fire dispatch side. It's basically, hey, dispatch fire to go and assist, wait for EMS to get there. So right off the top of my head, I can't tell you a specific one. I was involved in a couple large fires that was in the central area of our, I should say county. I was going to say dispatch area, but it's the entire county. So there's been a couple different ones, and the good thing is where I worked at is we're blessed enough to have extra hands that are in there because of
Hmm.
our county's busy, but it's not as busy as our next door neighbor to the west.
Oh yeah.
So, luckily, if there's a big call going on, you still have a job to do, right? So there's still people calling 911. You might be working this two alarm fire, But now a wreck just happened with entrapment on the interstate, and you got 30 people calling in a call center where there's only 4 or 5 people working. So it's definitely can be chaotic at times, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. So I can't tell you a certain one that was too chaotic because my shift was great in helping each other when we got overloaded.
Awesome. Okay, so you went from, well, I mean, you never really left fire, but your job was dispatch. And how long were you in dispatch again?
For 3 years.
Well, that's a long time, considering, as hectic as it can be. Now, what got you interested in law enforcement?
There was a couple events that had happened pretty quick. Obviously, like Brian said, while I was in dispatch, I was still a firefighter, and I had a call that I was off work for, and it come out at an address that was very, very close to my house. And with my experience, I learned that when people get into a panic, sometimes they forget things or they don't know exactly the correct answer to the questions that you're trying to ask. And it was dispatched to an address very close to my house. And I'm talking like 1 or 2 digits away from my house. And it come out as a male in his like 50s that was having a seizure. And so I panicked. I thought it was my dad. So I think it was also the timing. The Lord put me kind of in the same place because I was coming to the crossroads where our firehouse was located. I was the first one there. I jumped in the truck. I responded to the scene, and it ended up being my uncle that I was very close to that lived behind me. I looked up to him a lot. He was in corrections. And he was also prior military, and he wanted to go into law enforcement, but because of injuries and his age and some other stuff, he was not ever able to do that.
Get it.
So we ended up working him on this medical call, and this seizures call turned into a cardiac arrest. And we worked him for a while. My aunt, that was in the medical field for a long time, she was hysterical, crying. And my mother was actually there, and she's been in the medical field and stuff like that. So me looking at both of them, and it's like that time when you get that fight or flight, all their medical training and knowledge went out of their mind because they were so emotionally involved, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So,
They never expected it to happen right there so close to home.
exactly. And so, my training just that thing we all hear about your training when you don't know what to do, your training just kicks in.
Yes.
Well, that's what happened. So, we got to get him out of the bed, got to get him somewhere we can work on him. He's not breathing. So, we started working him as a cardiac arrest, and he ended up passing away in my lap.
Mm.
And like I said, as close as I was to him and his son, which is my cousin, and then my aunt, that was devastating to me because I felt like I had failed my family. And so that had happened while sitting in dispatch. Some time had passed, and then we were sitting in dispatch, and on the news there was breaking news of the active shooter at the Jason Aldean concert. While that was actively happening, you could listen on the computer to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, listen to their actual police scanner and the way the events folded. And them guys, you can watch documentaries now, which I did afterwards. You know, them police officers, they were running to where that guy was shooting at to go take care of business.
Hmm.
And they were also helping the people that couldn't help themselves that was getting shot at. So these police officers are putting their self in danger in the middle of this wide open field to help these people that's been shot. And then you have other police officers, law enforcement officers that are going to stop the shooting. So at that moment, between that and my uncle always wanting to be a police officer and stuff like that, I looked at my supervisor in the room that night at dispatch and said, I'm going to the law enforcement academy. And within the next couple days, I put in to be a cadet at Escambia Sheriff's Office, and that's what started the ball rolling with law enforcement.
I get it. I get it.
Um, with your starting your career in law enforcement, what was the first call that you were on that you were like, I'm glad I was here to help out with the community?
So a lot of and like I said, everybody's different in the way they look at stuff, the way they take stuff in. But my biggest thing is, and I don't narrow this down, but we get in this job to help people. And it might be this person worked his life to make decent money to get nice tools, nice four wheelers, nice side by sides, and all this stuff. And then somebody comes by and steals his tools. You know, whatever I can do as a law enforcement officer to find that person, number one, we want to get his tools back. But number two, that guy needs to be held accountable of taking this person's property that he worked his life to be able to get this stuff. So the biggest thing that sticks out to me is when you have a female that has continually been in a domestic violence situation for years, and she has grown kids, and the only reason that she is in that relationship is because of the kids. Well, all this domestic violence has happened to her. She don't want to report it, don't want to report it. Well, finally it gets reported and we get there and it's obvious that something's happened. So there's injuries that dictate what she's saying about, hey, my husband put his hands on me. Right then, right there, that was the breaking point. We put him in jail. When we put him in jail, that opened up her having the ability to go and get a no contact order put on this person to where she could have that breath of fresh air of not being abused every single day she come home from work or he come home from work, and these kids not having to sit there and be scared of what's going to happen to their mom. So the first domestic violence call that we come to, I'm not going to say where it happened and all that stuff, but that was the situational thing. It was a basic, and I don't mean that rude or anything, but it was just a basically push somebody to the ground and slapped them in the face. So it wasn't too violent, but for a lot of people that can trigger a lot of stuff that's happened violent. So with that, just as someone being slapped in the face and pushed to the ground, that's not that big of a deal to some people, but it was a big deal to her
Hmm.
because of everything that had happened before. And then, boom, as soon as handcuffs go on somebody, they get put in the car and she breaks down and thanks us for doing what we did. But she, at the same time, is saying, I don't want to press charges. I don't want to press charges because I'm scared. Well, in Florida, the state picks up the charges. So
And
the
they pick it up for that very reason.
exactly. They didn't we don't want to have to worry about the whole, well, you press charges, so I'm going to retaliate. So the state knows that. So what happens is in Florida, if there's enough evidence to determine a primary aggressor, the primary aggressor goes to jail and the state is the one that picks up the charges. So that to me is the biggest first thing that happened in law enforcement that was like, this is really helping people.
That's awesome. Now, is there a high intensity call? One that you may have been scared for your life, or just one of those that you will never forget? Do you have anything like that?
You want with I'm just going to
Well,
tell you the
both.
law the
Hey, I'll tell you, I don't care if it's from all three.
so the one that sticks out to me, especially when you said scared, um if you're working in any law enforcement, EMS, fire, I would say dispatch, but this day I wouldn't say dispatch, but this day and age you never know with these active shooters and all
Oh
that.
yeah.
But if you do not say that you've went in your career and never been scared at some point in time, you are a 110% liar. You know, if somebody goes into a burning house and says that I have never been scared in 20 years of fighting fire, you are a liar. If
Hmm.
you put on a suit with a gun and badge and a bulletproof vest and you go to work and you're not scared or not ever been scared, you're a liar. So the one that sticks out to me, and I'm not going to say the county, not going to say the city, we were standing for basically county coverage because our neighboring district had a shooting one night. And it was a actual shots fired, somebody was injured, and
And pretty much every cop available is going to that.
yes, correct. So you also have, think about it, EMS that's there, fire that's there, and so while we're sitting there, we get toned out. I was working for the sheriff's office. I don't remember if I clarified that. And we got toned out for another shooting.
Mm.
And so you have you have a responsibility that you treat everything with urgency and that it's real. And sometimes in this realm of work, you get a lot of frequent flyers, is what we call some of the people that call for the same thing over and over and over again. You have prank callers, all kinds of scamming calls and stuff like that. And so we were actually sitting with a BLS, which is a basic life support truck that doesn't have advanced life support capabilities and stuff, because they don't have a paramedic on there. Well, we were sitting at a store with them when the call come out, and I looked at my shift mate and I said, "There's no way this is real. We just had a shooting, like we're in the middle of it right now."
Hmm.
So we get in our cars and we're going and driving, pretty quick to get there. Well, dispatch comes back on the radio and says, "We're on the phone with two callers. Both of them are advising that they have been shot by a male subject and he left the scene." Well, now I'm starting to think, okay, well, this is not just some hoax of a call. This probably sounding pretty legit. And then one of the dispatchers said that they have a caller on the line that is now not speaking anymore that had said she had been shot.
Oh, snap.
And the dispatcher, if I recall correctly, the dispatcher said that she could hear gargling in the phone. So now I'm pushing my car to the limits, going through the city, lights, sirens, everything. We're hauling as fast as we can. There was an overtime gig that was pretty close in the vicinity, so there was literally 4 patrol vehicles in a group going to this shooting. Um, we couldn't get an exact address of where it was at because they did not know where they were, and it ended up being at a fishing pier. So there's 2 fishing piers in this vicinity, and so you got 4 deputies. We got a fifth, a K-9 deputy was coming up, and we were all coming to um, a nearby intersection, and dispatch says that they are on the phone with a caller that had just pulled into a Waffle House and is the shooter. So we're all kind of slowing up because he just shot 2 people.
Uh-huh.
And you have that split second thought of we need to go take care of him because what if he's going in Waffle House to go shoot more people?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I get told on the radio by the people that was behind me with my medical knowledge to, hey, you keep going and find the patients. We're going to take care of him. So a K-9 deputy and another deputy went to Waffle House and secured him, which means detained him, put him in the back of the vehicle, all that kind of stuff. So I told you there was 2 fishing piers. Well, it come out as a specific name, and I'm not going to say that name,
Sure.
but it come out of as a specific one of the 2. So I knew which one because I fished around here and all that stuff. So I knew which one it was. So I went to pull into it, and 2 other deputies, the other 2 that was with me, had went to the next one.
Sure.
As soon as I pulled over the hill, I seen 2 bodies laying in the middle of the parking area. So as soon as I got down there, I ran around to the back of my car, got my med bag out, and got down there, started assessing both of the patients. One of them, she was able to talk to me. She was more worried about her friend at the time. Well, mind you, this is a shooting,
Uh-huh.
okay? Yes, we got told that somebody was at Waffle House, but at the same time, how do I know that's the only person that shot somebody? How do
Yeah.
I even know that's the shooter?
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to do medical aid on these 2 people, but I have all this sage that's around me. Like, is somebody sitting in this sage to ambush us coming down here? All kinds of stuff. So I'm trying to have my situational awareness on a swivel, looking around, assessing until I had backup deputies get there. Well, the first female that was not talking, obviously there's a problem there compared to the one that's talking to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I assess her. She had a single gunshot wound to the chest and was not breathing.
Mm-mm.
So now I have to triage and look at this other female that's sitting here crying to help her friend, but at the same time, she has an obvious gunshot to the face that you can see. And so I'm going through questions, asking her where else are your shots. I believe she was shot 4 times in the leg and the chest, and then one in the face and one in the hand, I believe. And so I'm removing clothing, trying to check where all the gunshot wounds are and start, controlling bleeding and stuff like that. My backup deputies get there. That BLS truck gets there. So now I have all these hands.
Sure.
So they start working CPR on the
Unresponsive lady.
correct the first one that was not breathing, none of that, and they put her in the back of the ambulance, took her to the hospital where they ultimately pronounced her deceased, and then we were able to get the other one packaged and put in another ambulance and took her to the hospital. And all that at that scene was then taken care of. So that's one of the most scared and chaotic type scenes that would better fit that description than anything that would have happened on the fire side, because most of the time when fire and EMS are getting there, the scene has been deemed secure by
Mhm.
law enforcement. So that's what I would say has been my most chaotic and honestly scared, because I'm sitting here trying to focus and work on these people and worried about getting shot in the back or somebody coming out
Yeah.
of the brush. So
Yeah, that is a big difference between fire and law enforcement because yeah, fire is there to either put out a fire or help with the medical. Law enforcement, you're also, like you said, put your head on a swivel and make sure nobody's going to come out of the bushes because you don't know the whole story.
that's
You
correct.
still got to investigate it.
You said you were helping out a neighboring department because they didn't have enough people to control their district at the time. Since you work at a smaller agency, what are some of the issues you run into of not having enough people whenever you're on shift?
So I think it's not just our agency, but sadly nationwide right now. The way the whole nation is when it comes to looking at law enforcement and police, or excuse me, fire, EMS, but specifically law enforcement. With your question, there's times that us being low on manpower, we might have to sit there with a call holding, or you might have to go to a call that you would like to have a backup unit on, but at the end of the day, you're kind of it. So you either go and do what you can, or that call is going to have to hold until you get somebody with you. So it's a struggle, but I mean, at the end of the day, our agency is still pretty blessed to have the people that we do have right now. And most of the time, the supervisors that's on, like our sergeants and lieutenants, they don't sit under a shade tree. They'll go and they'll pull case numbers with us. They'll go take a call by themselves and stuff like that. So the biggest challenge I would say is you just got to know your job. I mean, don't put yourself in a bind to take a chance of not coming home at night, but at the same time you have that job to go do your job. I mean, don't take the unnecessary risks if you can wait a couple of seconds, or a supervisor can tell somebody to get free from this because this call that Shay's going to, there's a lot more to it. With that, the manpower thing, it also has a damper because of the mileage distance. So, working in one portion of the county, there can be people in the centralized part that them running lights and sirens to me, fighting a dude on the side of the road, it can take them 17 minutes to get to me.
Because they're just plowing through traffic trying to get into this more rural area.
Correct. And so now you're in that rural area, but because of the miles that separate the districts, I might be fighting this guy, like I said, 17 minutes by myself. And anybody that's ever been in a fight or anything like that, 3 minutes fighting someone feels like an eternity. So, um, but like I said, there's a lot places that are a lot worse off than we are with manpower, but it's just the ultimate thing is with our agency, like you were asking, is we're low on manpower, but we still find ways to make things work. Whether it's tell people to get off of this call, go help here, or if they're on this call and it's not a very bad call, hey, we'll come back in just a second. We have a higher priority call. We'll be back. So then they jump in their car, come help me on whatever the call is, and then they do a follow up later on with that person or the people to finish that case out.
Now, I was just thinking, you talking about that. Uh, I know we have here, at least in this part of the county, there's a Navy fire unit that we're blessed that they're able to come off base and help us out when we have something major. And a lot of times not even major. They hear a call. They're like, "Hey, we're available," and they'll come out. Now, does that kind of relate with surrounding agencies? Let's say you're on one end of the county that's closer to the next county,
Mhm.
and you're low on manpower. Well, I mean, how's the relationship there normally? Do they come over if they feel like they need it?
So I can't get into too much of the administrative stuff when it comes to the law enforcement stuff. I know we have certain agencies that are in our county that are technically state agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And when we need help, we can call for help. So
Okay.
if I'm up here and I'm in the northern part of our county and there's a lot more game wardens up here during hunting season,
Uh-huh.
if I get into a fight, I get into a shootout or something like that, our dispatch and our supervisors, or even me, might say, "Hey, can you get FWC en route to come give me a hand because there's a fight down here at the creek?" Or some of our guys on the interstate that runs different jobs on the interstate and the main roads in the big part of our county. Highway patrol is always out, so the Florida Highway Patrol, and we have somebody that runs from us. We can ask them for help. And then obviously, large scale incidents, I can tell you for certain that if there's like an active shooter or something like that, then that's going to be all hands because we've seen firsthand in the county to the west of us that when something catastrophic like that happens, you have everybody that's coming to help you out. So,
And we're blessed over here because we don't just have county, we have federal, we have highway patrol, you have FWC, the game wardens, and then a number of you got smaller municipalities. I mean, they just when it comes to the end of when it comes down to it, we're all doing the same job and they all jump in to
correct.
help out.
Because everybody needs to go home at the end of the day, and we're here to help the community.
That's right.
Yep. Now, what would you say, going back to what you mentioned in your question, what would be like your most memorable pursuit that you've been on?
Well, it's a closed investigation, so I had just got out of FTO and was assigned to one of the busier districts on one of our main roadways. And I was following a guy that looked to be like a intoxicated driver. And I went to pull him over, but before I pulled him over, he had turned onto a side road. And when he turned on a side road, I noticed that the passenger side door had come open and his wife just about fell out in the middle of the road. So I had just initiated my lights and tried to pull him over. He did not want to stop. And so we continued at low speeds. I was calling out traffic, I was calling out speeds, and I don't remember because it was literally like 5 years ago. So we went a certain distance down one of these roads, and a black male jumps out of the driver's seat and starts running down the road. So me being young, gung ho, straight out of the academy, slam my car in park, foot chase. Well, he tries to go off the road, but the road that we're on had a 6 foot um,
Ditch.
chain link fence
Okay.
all the way down the side of the road. So he couldn't get off the road. It's literally him holding his pants up that was falling,
Hmm.
running in front of me. So I close the distance, tackle him to the ground, get him in handcuffs, and my backup units, you can hear the cavalry coming
Hmm.
because it's late at night. Nobody's really on the road, so you just hear sirens everywhere. So I'm on the radio. I said, "Hey, I got him detained. Um, whenever another unit gets back here, we're going to get him up, go back to the car." Well, deputies get there. We get him up, and one of the deputies look at me and says, "Where's the car?" I said, "The car's in front of my truck, or my car at the time." And they're like, "There's no car there." I said, "Well, there was a car there because he jumped out of the driver's seat and took off." So he radioed, "Be on the lookout for this car." So I got him in the back of my car. He's going to jail for fleeing and eluding and DUI.
Hmm.
The Milton guys locate the car that he was driving, and his girlfriend or friend, whoever the girl was that was in the passenger seat, she was driving it and got pulled over, and she got arrested for DUI. So we got 2 arrests out of the same car for DUI.
So you didn't even know there was somebody in the car when he hopped out, or was
No,
it just adrenaline pumping and you just took off after him?
no. So I knew she was in there because when we made that curve, she opened the door and almost fell out.
Okay, okay. I thought she had fallen out.
No,
Okay.
not yet. So was able to pull herself back into the car, but I should have honestly I should have stayed with the car and we could have worked on getting him other means. But that adrenaline dump and all that stuff of wanting to get him, he totally forgot about her being in the car and took off after him and got him. And luckily it worked out for us that they both went to jail that night.
Well, the hindsight is 2020, but at the same time, who would have thought she would have just, whatever, jumped over into the seat and took off? I mean, when you
Exactly.
told me, you're like, "Where's the car?" I'm thinking it must be in a ditch. I didn't realize it
Yep.
had took off.
Exactly.
Well, something similar that I got for you. I know you see strange stuff all the time, or even hilarious stuff.
Hmm.
You got a story of either one?
So there's a lot that we deal with.
Anything ever make you make a double take?
That happens a lot. Um, Sadly, mental health is a big issue and drug usage. Um, we had a guy in an area that I'm not going to specify because I don't know
Sure.
if it would pinpoint him out, but he believes that he's abducted by aliens, has been. He believes that the FBI is watching him and has tapped into his cable and his internet in his house and listened to all his conversations. And every time he comes to the door, he has a hat that's made out of aluminum foil. And he comes and he believes that that is a way that the aliens and the government will not be able to brainwash him, basically. So anytime he comes in contact with government agencies, he has this hat on and it's made out of aluminum foil, and that's what he goes by. So nobody can quote brainwash him and what he knows about his life and other people's lives. So, I mean, like I said, there's a whole bunch of them, and some of it is not so appropriate, and I can't share them on anything because it's one of them that you're more like I really wish I would forget what you just told
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it. I
than
get it.
anything. But you know, we try to as responders we look at coping with funny stuff. So you might look at the way somebody explains a story one way, and I might look at it a different way and think it's funny. And it's not meaning nothing, but it's the way some of us look at it and cope with different things. So there's plenty of funny that you see.
So, you being in the rural department, have you ever had any encounters with like wildlife on duty?
Wildlife.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, we had a call to a house, and a lady said that she was going to take a shower, and there was a snake in her shower. So I'm not really scared of snakes or spiders, so I'm the first one in there, and I'm like, "Well, where's this snake?" And the first thing when I walk up, I'm looking at this old house. Mind you, I told you that I am not scared of snakes, but I respect certain snakes better than others. So looking at this house and where the house is located, it's in the middle of a peanut field. So I'm like, okay, well, dear Lord, please be with me and not let this be a rattlesnake. So that's the first thing I asked her. I said, did it make any type of noise when you seen it? She said, no, as soon as I pulled my curtains back, it was there and I ran out. I said, okay. Still don't give me a good answer, but let's go with it. I said, what color was it? And she said, kind of like a gray. So walked in there, located it, was on the rail, like the top rail of her shower, and all it was an oak snake. So I just reached up there, grabbed the oak snake, and then come out. Deer, anybody that's up in this neck of the woods knows that deer is everywhere up here. So sadly, I've hit quite a few in my personal vehicle, my work truck, and I can say for a while up here in the area that I work, I had the record for the most hit in one motor vehicle crash, but it was just an accident. I hit 3 deer at one time coming across the highway.
Good gosh.
There was deer strode everywhere.
Oh my
Two of
God.
them it didn't even kill. So, and there was like barely any damage. It barely cracked like the the headlight of my truck, and that was it for hitting 3 deer.
But does your work truck, does it have I call it a deer catcher? Does it have one of those on there?
The brush guard?
Yeah.
So it has a brush guard, but there's still space between like where it comes around the side of your wind or your headlights. And so it's like that bad luck type thing. If you hit a deer and it still can push that brush guard in
Sure.
and bend it. But the big thing is their hooves, or if they have antlers, will cut and go between the metal and still find a way to cause some type of damage always. A deer's just a nuisance.
Mason's hit a couple. I mean, let's say he's hit it. He's not going out there hunting for deer with his vehicle, but they've come in contact with him. I have yet to hit one, and I know my day is coming.
Yes, don't say that too loud because they'll hear it and then they'll be looking for you.
It's like they look for it. In fact, I think he said one day he was trying to avoid the deer, and he just kept running toward him.
Yeah,
That
I
was
believe
like,
it. I believe it.
Going back to whenever you was in the academy, how was everyone always asked, how was your pepper spray and tasing experience? They tase you, pepper spray you?
Yes, so they do both. I believe the pepper spray is mandatory, but the tasing is not. So you still go over it, but during the academy, they asked you, hey, who wants to get exposed to being tased? So instead of getting shot with it every single time because you waste cartridges, we were lucky enough to have somebody take the first actual shot.
hmm
And then after that, they take the prongs and they put it to your back and then they activate it. So with the taser, you can do the full ride, which is 5 seconds, or you can hit a function that's on the taser to where it's just like an arc.
Okay.
And so mine was like a half a second to a second arc, and that was enough for me to realize that I don't like electricity. But with both of them, I can tell you, I would let you pepper spray me I would let you tase me 15 times before I let you pepper spray me one time.
Mm.
That's the difference to me because I cannot stand that because the pepper spray will reenact. So when I got pepper sprayed, mind you, my academy was 40 minutes away. And with my academy being 40 minutes away, when I got pepper sprayed, I had to drive 40 minutes home. So you go, you rinse your eyes out. Well, it's hot, number one, so your sweat's going to activate it.
hmm
And then they say that when you go home and you take a shower, it's going to reactivate with the shower. So I was driving down the interstate and the sweat, and I had the AC blowing on my face because it was all swollen and numb. The sweat reactivated my eyes going 70 miles an hour
Oh
down the interstate.
no, no, no.
So I pull over to the side of the interstate and sit there and cry like a banshee girl and just finally get everything patted away to where I can make it home. And then I was able to make it home and take that horrible shower with soap, and it reactivated everything again. So, like I said, literally or a second and a half, and that tasing was over with. But that pepper spray lasted for hours.
Well, you can build an immunity to it, as in episode one, Correction Officer Thomas.
Hmm.
He says he's got sprayed with it so many times, just overspray,
Yep.
it doesn't even affect him anymore.
I believe that. I've heard a lot of stories, and there's actual guys that we pepper spray and that we tase, and they don't feel it. It don't phase them. So I 110% believe it. That's why we can't, as law enforcement officers, we can't. I was taught this by one of my defensive tactic instructors. Rely on don't rely on a taser or don't rely on pepper spray. You have to have other means in case that fails. You have to have something else to go to. So, but yes, that's my pepper spray and my tasing. I don't wish it upon anybody. And the pepper spray, I've gassed people because we have CS gas that we use, and
hmm
then you have pepper spray. I've gassed people out of houses. I've gassed people out of campers, and at the end of the day, we have to transport them to the jail with all that stuff all over them. So our car is going to smell like it. So literally, the only time that I would use pepper spray, I don't even carry it on I call it my bat belt,
Sure.
but I don't even carry it on there no more. It stays in my truck door for dogs, basically,
Yeah.
because I will tase you. I'll use my baton. I'll go hands on, whatever, but I don't want none of that pepper spray to come in contact with me.
What would you say would be the most commonly annoying thing that somebody would ask you knowing that you're a cop?
Ooh, there's a bunch. There's a bunch. I would have to say the main thing is if you pull me over for speeding, are you going to give me a ticket?
No. Okay.
Everybody's like, hey, it's the police. He's going to pull you over, give you a ticket, all that kind of stuff. So that's probably, let's not base off what ifs. Like, there's things that dictate certain things. If we've had a lot of car wrecks that's dealt with speed, and you're going, 72 and a 50 or 72 and a 60, which happens up here a lot, and there's not a lot of traffic on the road, and you're in a hurry to get home because you've been at work. Hey, maybe just a good warning and saying, hey, listen, slow down. You're tired. You don't need to be speeding and all that. If you're going 72 and a 45
Oh,
in the city and
yeah.
there's cars everywhere, yeah, more than likely you're probably going to get a ticket. But like I said, it's all officer discretion. So that's probably the biggest thing. Or another pet peeve that a lot of us have is you have family members, you have friends, so to say, that you don't hear from. You ain't heard from somebody in years or months, or you don't
Mhm.
talk to them regularly, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, I got a question," and you're like, "Okay, well, what's up?" And then it's something to do with law enforcement, or they're wanting to know, "Hey, I seen a bunch of cops at the bank by my work the other day. What's going on?" Well, number one, if I'm not at work, I don't pay attention to work, because when I'm off, and I don't want to be all into my job to where I can't enjoy my time off. So that is one of the pet peeves that goes with that, is people that you don't hear from, or people that don't even know you, but they're like, "Hey, do you know what was going on yesterday with all the cops that went by?" Or a family member that ain't talked to you in years, and they're like, "Hey, well, my baby mama was threatening this or threatening that." Well, call and talk to a supervisor, or call and talk to a deputy that's working right now. Sorry.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. Shay, we've had you here for almost an hour. Um, the last question I have for you today is any words of wisdom for somebody who's looking into getting into fire or dispatch or law enforcement, any of these responder type um, careers. What would you have to say to them?
Words of wisdom. There's a bunch. The way the world's going today, it is a scary place. Very scary. Law enforcement, your job is changing on the daily. With case law, with all kinds of stuff. The biggest thing I would have, it don't matter what avenue you go to, is pray about it and keep the Lord in control, because that's where with mine, with all of mine that I've been through, you're going to have bad days. Everybody's going to have bad days, but especially in this career field, you're going to have some that people normal people do not see. They say, I think it's like the first 5 years in a first responder's life will see more than most average people do in a lifetime.
I understand that.
And depending on when you get into it, some of us get into it at a young age and we see stuff before we're 20 years old that people never see. And you have things that you will never forget, and you're going to have problems, and it's okay. Um, I've learned, don't keep it bottled up, because before too long, when you're filling that tea pitcher up, it's going to overflow eventually.
Mm.
So the biggest thing I can say is keep God first, spend time with your family. If you have an agency that does not like you spending time with your family and does not basically understand that family's a big thing, you need to go somewhere else.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Um, because this is a harsh way to put it, but if you leave because of that reason, that agency is going to find somebody to replace you. Your wife, your mom, your dad, your kids, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. So spend as much time with your family as you can. And then when it comes to work, keep an open mind. Don't ever stop learning, because if you stop learning, that makes you dangerous. So keep learning. push yourself to be the best that you can, not just for yourself, but for the people that you work with. And in these jobs, we're talking about the community because that's what your goal is to help people. So God first, family, keep an open mind, and always stay ready. I mean, you once you get into this world, it's hard to get out. So you can be on vacation and you drive by down, or driving down the interstate and see a car wreck. Well, I don't know how many of y'all, but if I drive by a car wreck that just happened, I can't self-consciously ignore it and continue going on my family vacation. It's happened. I
Mhm.
pull off on the side of the road, make sure 911's called, start talking to patients and all that stuff. And I'm on vacation, but it's like you just can't. What if you passed and you find out later somebody passed away because it took 5 minutes for CPR to get started on this patient?
Sure.
So keep an open mind, always be ready for change. And the biggest thing is if you need help, whether it's mental help, emotional, physical, whatever, talk to somebody. Reach out if you, I don't know how people listening, I don't know what your take is on your faith and stuff like that. I have a bunch of people in my life that I'm very grateful for because with my problems, it always comes back to praying about it and talking to preachers. And that has helped me through a lot of stuff. And that's what I asked all of y'all. Suicide is getting to be is way out of the realm of what it should be. It should never be done, period. But a lot of the firefighter, law enforcement, EMS, dispatch, the medical field, period, whether it's in a hospital, there's a lot of suicide. And a lot of it is because people don't either one have anybody to reach out to and talk about, or they don't want to. And that you have to make that decision of, I don't want to be that person to hold all my stuff in. Find you someone, whether it's a preacher, a counselor, whatever it is, to talk to. Your spouse, sometimes spouses, they can't handle some of the stuff that we go through. So like I said, I'm blessed to have a chaplain that is a very, very big part of my life and has been since I was a kid. And he's been in the first responder world too, so he knows a lot of the stuff that we go through. And so that's my words of wisdom to everybody. If it's what you want to do it, because who's to say 20 years from now you look back and your kids, your grandkids is like, hey, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a cop, or I want to be a dispatcher, or whatever it may be, a paramedic. And then you turn around and say, well, yeah, 30 years ago, I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be a paramedic, but I never done it. So now you're going to be at the point of where I wonder if I could have done it. So if it's something you want to do, go for it 100% and put your all into it. I'm a big person, whether it's in training for fire department, law enforcement, or real life, you know, give your best for whatever it is, because that's going to put your reputation up above other people as, hey, this is that 110% percenter versus this is the guy that only gives 25% in whatever he's doing.
All good words of wisdom, and yeah, definitely. Uh, I don't know how people make it without the Lord. I really don't. Um, and so I encourage people to, talk, find somebody you can talk this out with. It's not meant to be bottled up. And what we do, we've got to compartmentalize.
Hmm.
I mean, especially um, law enforcement. You may go to a horrific wreck and be dealing with all of that or whatever it is. Then the next call is, I don't know, somebody has a cat up the tree or they're having an issue with their neighbor that seems so petty. But then you got to turn that off and then go over there and deal with it. So, but then you got to get to a point where, hey, those rooms get filled up. You got to talk to somebody. You got to get it out somehow.
100%.
And the bottle is definitely not the answer.
Nope. I can tell you I've been on both sides of that. I'm proud to say today is the 20th. 3 days ago, I am 4 months sober, no
Woo!
alcohol. So,
Absolutely great.
I've sadly had friends pass away from that being one of the lead causes with the PTSD and stuff. And a lot of us don't like saying we have PTSD and all this stuff. We don't like saying that. We don't like hearing that. But definitely what you said, the bottle and drugs. That's a temporary fix for a long-term problem. And
I remember in high school we had Jay Strank, which was an evangelist, went around all over the place, and he told us, he said, the bottle's not the issue. He said he found out that when he got drunk to escape the problems he had, they messed around while he was drunk and had more problems.
I
And
believe
so
it.
he said, just stay away from that stuff.
I believe it. All right, so when I was 17, I had just got first responder, and we had a call that come out of a motor vehicle crash with entrapment. And so we got there. A lot of people's getting there, and it was three boys that was in the back, a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 7-year-old. That was all three in the back seat. Mom was in the passenger seat. Stepdad was in the front. Um, and then there was a guy that was intoxicated that was in the vehicle that hit him. Later on, we find out that that guy had been called in as a reckless driver prior to this car wreck. So we all get there. Like I said, entrapment was involved, so we had another fire department that was there. We had multiple patients, and so we start cutting the kids out. Well, I told you I'm 17. 17-year-old was signal 7, and for people that don't know what that means deceased. And he was deceased in the driver's side back of the vehicle and had the top of the roof was crushed in on his face. So the 7-year-old was sitting in the middle between him and the 14-year-old. We were able to cut the 14-year-old, get him out. He had compound fractured femurs, and a lot of other injuries. The 14-year-old did. The 7-year-old was crying because the whole time we were trying to cut them out, and we were trying to do this obviously quickly, he's sitting there crying and screaming because his 17-year-old brother is dead and not talking to him
Mhm.
right next to him. So we're trying to get everything cut out. We're trying to get the 14-year-old kid out. So we get him out and we get the 7-year-old out. And when we get the 7-year-old out, he's crying and he grabs a hold of my bunker jacket by the neck and he says, "Please don't let me die like my brother." So we have him out on the ground when he's doing this. We got him on a backboard, and we knew he had a pelvic injury and a head injury and something else. We knew he needed to get on the helicopter. So um, he's screaming that to us, and we know that he has to get on the helicopter, and he is scared to death of that helicopter. I don't want to go on that helicopter. I don't want to go on that helicopter. There was me, and I think it was 4 other firefighters that was sitting beside him, and I will never forget this to my grave. One of the firefighters that was there, he didn't know what to say. None of us knew what to tell this kid. He's crying to us that he don't want to die like his brother, and he don't want to get on a helicopter. So the firefighter was there. I'm holding one hand of the kid, and he's holding the other hand, and he says, "Buddy, can I pray for you?" And we took our helmets off on the side of the road, and we prayed for that kid. And as soon as we stopped praying for him, he did not cry again. He got put on the helicopter, got sent to the hospital. So we get done, mind you, 17-year-old kid, same age as me. Um, it's time to cut him out. Highway Patrol's done their investigation, so we go to cut him out. And I remember our chief told us to stop when I was leaning in to hold him up as we were lifting the roof to get him out. Well, he had put his seatbelt on, but put it around his back to where it didn't look like he had a seatbelt on. So the chief didn't know if that was detrimental to the investigation. So he said, "Hey, y'all don't move. Let me get a trooper to come over here and take a picture that his seatbelt's on." So I'm holding this kid up and waiting for this trooper to take a picture of him. And I turn and look, and this kid's eyes is open, looking at me. It's like me looking at myself because he's 17, I'm 17,
Mhm.
and I'm like, man, this is rough. So, man, being young, every time I closed my eyes, when I took a shower, when I slept, I just seen him looking back at me. I heard the brother yelling, "I don't want to die like my brother." So, going through that, I met with my preacher, my chaplain, people I look up to in the fire department, stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, what do we do? What do we do? Pray, pray, kept praying, kept praying. Well, one day I was coming back from a town close to where this incident happened, and I was getting lunch. And I usually get lunch and go to my house. Well, I got lunch that day, and something told me to take the cut through road where this happened at and go to the firehouse and eat lunch. This was years, like years after. And recently I had started having these nightmares again about this boy. And I talked to my chaplain, and he said, well, do you think that it might be the Lord telling you to check on these boys now that years have gone by and all that kind of stuff? So I'm like, man, I don't know how to get in touch with them. They were from like Baker or Flomaton or somewhere. I'm like, I have no idea how to get a hold of them. I can't even remember their names. So drive by, not even thinking about nothing about this car wreck, nothing. Something just told me to go to the firehouse, go eat lunch. Well, I passed by where this boy's cross was, and there was people all over the side of the ditch. And I was like, man, that's weird. I'm looking to see if there's a car wreck, but there's no car wreck. And then I see that they're circled around the tree, or not the tree, but the cross that was made for the 17-year-old. And I went down, and something was just tugging at my chest and said, go turn around and see who that was. So I turned back around, and I pulled off further away from everybody, and an older man and older lady come over and said, hey, can we help you? And I was like, yes, ma'am. Are y'all family members of the kid that this cross is in respect for? And they're like, yeah, that was my grandson.
Oh,
And like I said, this was years later. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, did you know who he was? I said, no, ma'am. To be honest with you, I didn't. I said, I was one of the responders that come that night. And I said, this has had a impact on my life, the whole situation. And I said, how's the other two? And one of them, I don't know if he's paralyzed, but he was still, like I said, this was years later. He was still in a wheelchair over there by the memorial cross for his brother. And then the other one was standing beside him, and his mom was there, and his dad was there. And they're like, "Hey, we'll come get him." And I'm like, "No, ma'am, I don't want to take none of that. I wanted to check and see if this might have been family and how they're doing." And so grandma was like, "Yeah, they're doing better." She was talking to me about some of their medical problems that's still from that car wreck to today. And I was like, "Okay, well, what is today? Is it his birthday?" And that day was I want to say it was the 5 year, but that day was the anniversary of that car
oh
wreck.
wow.
And so them nightmares that I've been having that week before, you know, I don't know what people's take is on faith, but I think that's one of them things that, like my chaplain says, it could have been one of them things is you need to check on the kids, or you should look into it. And then that, like I said, that just random feel of, hey, go to the firehouse, do some paperwork and eat lunch. And then I drive by there, and then that happens. That just, I, some people call it chance, some people call it luck. I just say that that was a sign from God saying, hey, go by here and get you some comfort knowing that these kids are still moving on with their life. And I say we don't forget things, but ever since then, seeing them kids again in a different state, it has
It's,
calmed me.
it's done a world of good.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I call those situations, those tugging of the heart and hey, go over here. It's a three-letter word, God.
Yeah,
Three-letter name. Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, I truly believe He's got everything um, in control, even when it seems completely out of control to us. But
yeah,
that's awesome. That's absolutely
absolutely.
awesome.
Well, like I said, I appreciate y'all having me, and I definitely think this is a great and cool opportunity for anybody that gets the chance to come, because talking, it helps us, cope with stuff, and sharing stories to maybe somebody can take part of that story and put it in their life and say, I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. I'm not perfect. I'll never be perfect. Nobody's perfect, but I hope a lot of stuff that I teach people, because I love training, is I can teach from my own, mishaps, so to say, and hopefully it don't happen to them. So I appreciate y'all for letting me come.
And we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you want to close this out, Mason?
Thank you for tuning in to Responder Chronicles. We have many more episodes in the works coming for you, and we hope to see you on the next one. Thank you.
All right. See y'all.
10-4 John 12.